It just made me feel like I was just running out of time and my race gave me a disadvantage. You just wanted someone to look past your body. The husbands will treat us like queens. They won't treat us like dirt. Having unrealistic expectations and standards. Your future husband might be shorter than you.
I dated a woman who pretended to be a man.
They had a fetish over
They
you.
had a fetish over me. He will just make it work. Let Jesus take the wheel, as they would say. Hello, my name is Angelina.
And I'm Angelica.
Today we're going to talk about our romantic relationships and our experiences and how introducing God has changed our perspective.
And we have some fun stories to kind of tell everyone about those experiences and what we took from those experiences.
We have made notes because there is a lot to say
and we don't want to miss anything
about this topic.
This is a season of relationships and love is in the air and people are just coming together or just breaking up, and there is a reason why this is happening.
Angelica's gonna go and share her experience.
So I asked myself a question when I was 13 years old, and the question was, what's the point of getting into a relationship if you're going to break up? Later on in life, as an adult, I can now answer to my 13-year-old self and say that it will lead to marriage. So it is meant for you to get to know each other, but you guys are on common ground, knowing you would eventually get together for long term.
Mm-hmm. And that's the type of relationship God intends. It's a one and done deal. You don't have to kiss a lot of the toads, so to speak, before finding your prince. So my previous view was to just have a connection. This was before God was in my life. Just to fulfill the need that I was lacking in my childhood of only being raised by our mother. And there was definitely a void that I didn't know existed until I got older. I was looking for someone mature, someone older than me, someone to ground me and just help me process my emotions. Just going to the wrong places. I could have just went to God. It would have saved me a lot of trouble. In school, everybody was in a relationship. I felt like when I was in a relationship that I was a part of a club. I was accepted and more desired, because being single meant that you were lonely, desperate, and being single meant that you were needy. But being taken made you more desirable, more grown, had more boundaries, and that it was like the forbidden fruit sort of mentality of like, you're taken, so I want you even more. And that's what I wanted. When I looked at a person to date, I looked at it for the long term. It was never for a short-term fling.
This is a little bit about my just discouragement and fears. I remember this one thing that I saw on YouTube. I was just any other person just scrolling through YouTube, and there was a recommended video. It was a BuzzFeed video, and it says online dating statistics reveals users still have racial biases. Statistics said that Black women on the online dating app were the least responded group, and how they were the most likely group to respond to other people. Mm-hmm. So right there, I felt like the odds were against me.
So in short, Black women wanted attention and acceptance but wasn't desired or received.
Right. It just made me feel like I was just running out of time and my race gave me a disadvantage.
I have experienced something similar. Basically, there was a Black ethnic woman who had created a profile, and that photo of her true self was used. A lot of men who just fetishized her, who just wanted a one-night stand. And then when she changed her ethnicity, having the same features, just lightening her skin tone, another group of men messaged her, but the difference was that they asked questions that were more in depth into getting to know her. And the nature of the conversations that they initiated were to have a romantic long-term relationship rather than a fling, which was expressed in the first group of men that messaged her as a black woman.
And like, imagine that as two young, impressionable young women who are seeing these things said about their own race, about how we don't have any chance of love, and if we do have someone interested, then it's someone that we probably wouldn't want. So our standards had to be lowered.
And I never really formed this connection as a naive young woman. I never had the race mentality.
Right.
I've always accepted myself as myself, and I've never seen myself as my color. I saw myself as Angelina and expected other people to see me that as well. But now that I think about it, with everything that I know now as an adult, as an older and mature person, I've realized that most of the men that I have attracted and dated had a fetish over me.
Yeah.
And it was more than just me being an attractive woman, it was me being an attractive black woman. And I've noticed that they tended to date just black women.
For me, going into school, into college, I felt like a fish that was brought into a new pond. And I was attracted to a couple guys, and I got the courage to go up to them and tell them I liked them. However, I found out that the people that I did like didn't like me back, but they just saw me as a friend, and the people that liked me, I didn't feel the same way about them. So it was just a constant cycle of just singleness and just navigating that world, but yet not sacrificing my values. However, I was at a crossroads of where I was willing to sacrifice something that I held true to my heart, and that was my appearance, just to get a guy to like me. I was like 22 years old, and I would start to look at body hugging clothes because I know like I am attractive lady and I have a nice body, so I felt like if I showed it off that I would attract more people. No one was coming to me, so I was like, God, I'm gonna help you out. I'm gonna make a Tinder account.
Yes.
And just try to broaden my horizons so that he can choose for me. I just wanted a connection, and then we could see where it could go. But that didn't work out.
I experienced the same thing. Me personally, I went on online dating sites such as Plenty of Fish and Chatango, which was an anime chat room where you just role played and you were able to express your creativity through the characters that we both liked to watch. And we met a lot of people who had bad intentions, and unfortunately my first relationship for 2 years from 8th grade to 10th grade was a scam. And
you were catfished?
I was catfished. I dated a woman who pretended to be a man, and that this person pretended to have health issues and would sometimes kill himself off. And I gave my all. I gave my pure self, my pure love, my pure heart, writing poetry, sending like handwritten letters and mailing those letters, just spritzing perfume and mailing that with the letter and drawing pictures. And I've never seen his face, only photos, never webcammed, always talked on the phone, and that was very devastating and just set like a chain reaction of just trying to recover what I've lost through other people. Just kind of getting redemption from the world when that redemption has been given to me through Christ, and forgiveness for myself. I wanted to just rewrite the narrative of what has been a tragic story. I've experienced that firsthand, and when I was basically the weight that I am now, and I felt sexualized and wanted to just force people to look at me for who I am and reduce my physical self by refraining from eating. And that's when I developed my eating disorder. Everything that these men had stared at and desired on me as a developing woman I wanted to get rid of. And I felt more whole, and I felt more myself, and I felt more seen through that process.
You just wanted someone to look past your body or just want you for that,
Right.
but for what you have to offer on the inside. It's just that personal connection.
Right. That I know that I can get from God. And when you shift your focus from building relationships with people on earth and just focusing on our Heavenly Father, who's unconditional and don't have those biases or fetishes or perversions or that superficiality that the world is caught up in, it increases your standards and it makes it easier for you to wait for your husband, for the person that is right for you.
Right. So has anyone ever remembered their first relationship that they ever had? Because I remember mine, because that breakup, it hit my heart the hardest. I remember I dated this guy for a couple months, and he told me that he was interested in someone else. We just connected, and I was wrecked. Like, I was crying. I just felt like my world just ended, and it just stopped. I didn't see life without that person after they left. Our first relationships were the hardest, and it's because we had the mentality that it wasn't going to end.
Yes.
However, as the relationships kept on ending, I wouldn't give all of myself in those relationships because
we became more reserved, more hardened because of the lessons that we were taught. We've altered ourselves to be more protective, and unfortunately when that happens in one aspect of your life, it happens in multiple aspects. That stunts your growth and development and maturity. I've been cheated on. I've been with controlling men who just wanted to know everything that I did and were very jealous of and possessive over what I did and how I dressed and how I chose to express myself. And this is at a later date when I was in my I'm still in my early 20s, maybe like 21, 2 years ago. But basically the negative impact that these relationships have left on me was that I just wanted to start over and reinvent myself by painting who I am through another set of eyes of who I wanted to be accepted as by meeting somebody new. And hopefully starting over would just redeem my dignity, would redeem my respect, redeem the things that I needed to heal for myself and not other people. And it became more of a dependent relationship of where my worth depended on his desire for me and how much time we spent with each other.
Now we're going to talk about how our minds have been renewed as we walked with Christ. My vision on relationships completely changed earlier about how we don't look at relationships as links or just temporary things.
No, we're in it for the long run, for the long haul. When we date you, we envision you as our future husband.
You said that so seriously.
It's true.
Yeah. Okay,
we're intense.
Right. Yeah, and the thing is that when you enter a relationship, you will definitely know it's from God. He will put it on his heart, and he will put it on your heart that you guys were meant to be together, and he will also confirm it with other people that are around you. Another thing that I learned is that God put you together not for yourselves, but for his purpose. And that's how when relationships are together in the world, usually they fall apart or they just have different ambitions that don't align with one another. But when God puts someone in your life, you guys just naturally mesh as one, and everything just works out perfectly.
At the end of the day, maturity and wisdom would tell you that waiting for God and waiting for that man that he created for you is better than being in the wrong relationship. It is better to be alone than to be in the wrong relationship and causing unnecessary soul ties, trauma, dysfunction,
and then them taking
trust
a piece
issues,
of you.
taking a piece of you,
Right.
trying to heal for the inevitable of it not working out to happen. It's
And
just
just
better
being
to
scarred.
It's just better to wait. Just focus on yourself, focus on God, and everything will fall into place.
In society, singleness is looked down upon.
Yes.
What's wrong with being single?
Every person that I meet till this day, assumes that I'm in a relationship
because of your looks.
Not only that, but in this society, we train women to always be in a relationship. It's in our music, it's in our culture, it's what's around us. It's what we hear, it's what we see, it's what we know, it's what we're taught. For women, I believe that it's deeper than just being in a relationship. It is about marriage, having that time restraint of having kids, and so it's the process of being in a relationship is rushed.
And how a relationship is meant to build you up rather than just to degrade and destroy. You know, getting together, breaking up, getting together, breaking up. And it's just a lot of confusion. It's like an emotional tug of war. Sometimes it's better broken people to be apart than together. Most of the time, people don't know if they are broken or not. Because there are some people that are very aware with what they are feeling on the inside, or they feel expressing themselves emotionally is a form of weakness.
Ultimately, God will teach you what you deserve.
The thing is that when you trust God with your relationships, even before you get in a relationship, He knows everything about you in your heart. He knows things that other people may not know about you, and He will bring to your attention the things you may need to be healed from. But when you are called into a relationship, you're not perfect, but you're ready.
Yeah, and the relationship isn't going to be perfect. Even within the marriage, marriages aren't perfect, even if they're blessed by God or they're
Connected by God.
The
The Lord will bring you someone that is equally yoked to you. Equally yoked as in where you are in life is where you are in life. A person very busy, go, wouldn't be connected to a person that really know where they're going.
God is going to pair you with somebody who balances you out.
Yeah, complementary attributes.
Yes, and it is important to be balanced. It's important to just look to Him for guidance and put God first and then your spouse second. God are the guidelines. He's the flow of strength that just renews your mind. When the soil is rough, when the soil is dry, it's going to be very difficult for the seeds to grow.
Right.
And God is our water, God is our sunshine.
Yes.
To bear that fruit, the good fruit
In a marriage. And you will see it in a marriage.
In a marriage.
Right. God will bring two whole individuals who know of Him, are okay with being alone, because when you're single, you're not actually alone. God is always with you, and He is filling you, He is healing you, and He is teaching you how He sees you through His eyes. He's teaching you what love is, which is love is patient. It's like from Corinthians 13:4-8. Not only knowing, but having it in your heart and just living by those principles.
You're God with your marriage, you're unified, you're balanced, you're refreshed, you have new perspective, you move forward, you grow. And it's okay to have challenges, enforce endurance, and it's very important to have endurance. Because life isn't easy, life is tough. So that's something that you need to prepare for, that's something that you have to endure and persevere through.
And love also isn't like, I do something for you, you do something for me. It's unconditional. You do things for the partner you love just because you love them. It's nothing that you keep record or score on. Hey, we're back. We just shimmied on into the apartment. It was getting a little dark. But we were talking about the renewing of our mind.
My mind was renewed by shifting, by this realization that I deserve more than just attention, and that there are more important things than just being with somebody, and that I have to be with myself first and foremost. I have to accept myself. I have to love myself.
Right.
And that process has come to fruition through the Lord. And I saw his love for me as a guideline of loving myself.
We are clothed in strength and dignity, and that we are more precious than rubies, and nothing can compare to us. So it's just knowing the thoughts God think of you. You're not a loser. You're not worthy. You are worthy of all things, and that is one thing that you will become before going into a relationship. You will have that transition into believing those words, not just hearing them.
I said to myself that God is great, so if I discredited myself, then I was discrediting God. I was discrediting his creation and the purpose of him creating me. Jesus' sacrifice for me to start a new life and be forgiven for the mistakes that I've made when I didn't know any better.
When you come together, you also pour into one another. And you don't pour into one another from your own strength, but you pour into one another from what you receive from God. So it's an endless supply of love.
There is power in belief in what you believe that you have to offer. And let's just be honest, no one wants to be in a relationship who doesn't have anything valuable to offer. Even if you have something valuable to offer, there is power in what you truly believe that you have. And if you don't think that you have anything, then that's what is going to be reflected in other people's attraction or behavior towards you.
When you are broken, you tend to attract broken people. So when you're completely healed and you know who you are, and if you're confident in who you attract those like-minded people. And then you will become like a powerhouse. You're two fires that will ignite into something bigger. And if you're in a relationship that you feel like it's not working out, and if you're in it because you put so many years in that relationship, that's a relationship that you most likely would need to find the strength to get out of. Your partner can come from all over the world. They can come not from only college or from your workplace. So it could be a person from Europe or a person from Asia, and they just are going on a random trip to wherever you are.
You just have to have an open mind
Yeah.
to where you could possibly meet your partner. It's all within God's timing.
Right.
It's out of your control.
I even use Tinder, although I don't think that happens all the time, but he can use any medium that he wants. And another thing that I was renewed on is that when you meet the person, you will know in your spirit that that person was meant for you. And it is love at first sight. You guys are on the same page. People will confirm to you about your relationship and get married super quickly. Some people are engaged for like 3 years. Sometimes you will instantly know, you can get married as quick as like 3 weeks because things are just super accelerated. You just know in your heart that you were meant to be.
Something that I'm still struggling with submitting to my husband or submitting to anybody, is the fact that I was taught in my previous relationships that a form of submission is passiveness, and passiveness is weakness. And when you're passive, you're controlled, you're manipulated. And submitting to someone or to anyone is giving them authority over your heart, and that my heart was mishandled. It was taken care of in the way that it should have been. Like, for an example, my heart was used as a backup as a relationship was pending. Now that I read like the biblical context of submitting, it's basically compromising your heart and sharing it with another person. It's more about compromise and shifting your perspective in order to make someone happy, and making your partner happy and expecting the same for them. You have to be strong enough within yourself to precede that, because there is a form, if you want to look at it this way, there is a form of control of choosing not to be in control. Mm-hmm. That's when you're not controlled over control.
And that's why when you go through the healing process, you can't realization that God is in control of your life, and that when you continue to trust in him, that you are able to submit to him and his will, because God has given us free will, so we can do what we want. But when we choose to humble ourselves and to follow the good plans that he has for us, then even if we may be going through a storm or don't really have clarity, he will bring us through it. Before, I thought of submission as a form of weakness. Mm-hmm. It's like my mind, from knowing with what I knew, which were bad relationships, one of the fears that I had was going in a relationship, submitting to a person that I may not completely know, or they will have a surprise character that I had never seen before. And then I'm submitted to that, and I will be taken and exploited or abused in that relationship, and I would feel like I have no voice. However, I learned through my own realization, because I did ask this question and I didn't receive a direct answer on it. This is the verse that the husbands of how they should treat their wives. And it goes, "Husbands, love your wives even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it." Love their wives as their own bodies, that he loves his wife himself. "For no man ever yet hated his own flesh, but nourished and cherished it." So basically, husbands shall love their wives as Christ loved the church, and how Christ laid down his life for the church. So with that condition, the Lord tells us to submit to our husbands. So the husbands will treat us like queens. They won't treat us like dirt. And even with submission, that doesn't mean that your opinions or your voice is muted and he overrides everything you say. Yeah. It's a relationship for a reason. You are partnering up with one another. You have complementary attributes that you can contribute and learn and grow from each other and just build each other stronger. And there was an expression that I heard, which I love, and it goes, "The man leads the household, but the woman controls his head." So
is that in the word?
No, it isn't, but it's just kind of like a visualization with the partnership that it goes with a marriage. It isn't someone dominating someone else, overtaking someone. That's not, and even if that happens in a Christian relationship, that's not in the word of God, and that isn't something that should be happening. When I see a marriage, I see the fruit of it, and if it's ordained by God, because sometimes people will say, "God connected me with this person," but that person treats their wife horribly. You know what I mean?
Or their spouse.
Or their spouse. And that's why it's important to always keep the Lord in the center of everything. Be very prayerful, because we're not perfect. Sometimes we act in our flesh. We just need to be constantly in prayer and in God's presence. Always communing, always talking, always thinking, always acting in obedience to what God is actively telling you each and every day. So how do you know if a relationship isn't for you? Well, first of all, follow your gut. 9 out of 10 times, when you feel like you shouldn't be with someone, you shouldn't be with that person. So always follow that voice in your head that is telling you to leave, because more often than not, you're probably right. If you or the person has toxic tendencies, or if you're compromising too much of yourself to the point of where
you lose yourself.
If either party is too dependent on one another, that means that you don't have the stability to sustain a healthy, long relationship. God will probably split you up, and he could actually bring you back together if you guys were meant to be. So what happens after you wait for God to match you with your spouse? you're all in, you give all of your heart to this person.
The thing is that you have to be open-minded, because sometimes the person that God has created for you to be with is the least person you'd expect.
Exactly.
Because sometimes people are caught up in such toxic relationships, or they're just caught up in what they think is best for themselves that aren't really good for them, and it's based off of preference, it's based off of want and what isn't needed. So it's so important to just keep that element of open-mindedness.
Yes.
So that you don't miss any opportunities of marriage.
One of the biggest things that could prevent you being blinded to if that was the person is culture, race, and also having unrealistic expectations and standards. Before I was really in tune and aligned with God, because I always knew God existed, but it was until I started to follow him seriously, I started to have these realizations and a renewing of my mind, is that I wanted a guy that looked a certain way. I wanted a guy to have a college degree and have an education, because in the world I learned that going to college means you're smart. How I believe that anyone can be smart without a degree.
Degree isn't a measure of your intelligence.
Yeah. What I was really looking for was ambition and determination. So you also have to be open to this possibility. Your future husband might be shorter than you.
Right.
My standards has completely changed. Like, I'm okay with having a person that is shorter than me. I am okay.
Open-mindedness.
Just being open-minded, like dating outside of your race, and because they date inside of their race, they might be missing the guy that God called her to connect with, him or her. And God doesn't look at us any differently. He looks at us all the same, and he looks at us as all of his children in the kingdom. He doesn't separate us by culture or gender or class or race. So that's just how it is. So check, if you feel a little bit resistant regarding that, then that is something that you should keep in prayer and receive revelation. And that could be family pressures too. Like, some of your family members may want you not to date someone that is outside of the race.
Social constructs, and that's and systems that are created by man and not created by God.
Once you're past the superficiality of it all, you look into their soul, and that is what you grow to love.
Left. That's the most important thing that you have to be with: the energy, the spirit, the heart. The grass will wither and the flower would fade, but the word of God will always remain, or will last forever.
Right, beauty fades, it comes and goes, and this is not our eternal home. Like, in 80 years, we'll probably be in caskets and beauty is gone, right? When God connects you with a person you are ordained to be with, I think about children. I think about what genetics or what genes that they will receive from both parents. If it was a relationship ordained by God, I will know that my child has the best possible outcome for genetics in this flawed human world that we live in. There's no guessing game. There's no going in the dark.
He will just make it work.
There's no cold feet. There's no prenups.
Yeah, there's no soul ties that have to be broken.
Commitment issues, or always wondering if this was the person you were meant to be with.
Or trauma inflicted from a person that you were never supposed to be with.
One prayer that I would advise everyone to do is, instead of having a prayer, please let this relationship work out, or marriage, just ask the Lord, may your will be done. Because the person that you're with may not be the person for you.
Yeah, just let God take control. Just let Jesus take the wheel, as they would say.
Yeah.
And then everything would be good. Just so you know, sometimes like there are people that aren't meant for marriage.
People that are meant to be single.
Yes, because of their calling, or the thing that God has planned for them requires for them to be single.
For those people that are single, you won't have a desire to be with anyone. However, if you have a desire not to be with anyone, when you're
The-
called
the-
to be with someone,
Yeah.
that means that you need some emotional healing.
It gives us a lot of peace, and it gives us a lot of certainty, and it just makes life a little bit more easier and focused in order for us to be prepared for marriage. And marriage is just a small aspect of it. We do have a calling. It is not our identity, like how the world like to idolize marriage. It's not that at all. It's just a small piece of the puzzle. Ultimately, it leaves a good example for your children, and it will show them what a marriage is supposed to look like.
And just one takeaway from all of what we have said: if you feel like you can't be single, then you're not ready for marriage.
Each season that we are brought into has been created for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So respect the process,
Mm-hmm.
endure through
Right.
the process,
And pray for your husbands
and pray.
too. Then you know who you're looking for. The process becomes more simple. Okay, well, thank you once again. Hopefully what we have said could help you where you are in your relationship journey. And just know that God loves you. Share your experiences with us, and just keep an open community, because we're all in this together. We've been through it. All right, well, we hope you have a great night and stay blessed.
Bye.
Bye.
Love
Okay,
you.
wait, let's do the heart thing. Okay, go closer. Another thing that we were renewed on was about submission to your husband. Can I talk about it?
So, one of the most difficult